So you need to pop open this quick link, but you don't have a set of quick link pliers like these. You try to use needle nose pliers and you find that they don't really fit between the links. What do? Well, you fold over the link like this, then you grab it with the needle nose pliers and squeeze it, and it will pop right open and release the link. This chainstay is all pitted up from years of this chain just slapping into it over and over again over bumps. I guess they didn't know you can make a zip tie chainstay protector. Just wrap zip ties around the chainstay. You can use whatever annoying color combination you want. And you can space them out a little bit and they'll still protect your paint. It definitely works. When you let people customize colors, they tend to do stuff like this, but I think it might actually look good with white zip ties or clear zip ties. That's just one of many ways you can protect the chainstay of a bike that doesn't already have a chainstay protector. I tried my very best to come up with better hacks than silly ones like this, but every time I thought of something good, I realized I had done it already a long time ago. So I put together a compilation of 160 hacks from years past. There's some really cool tips and tricks in there, along with some really bad information. So take it for the entertainment it is, and enjoy. If you use action cameras the way I do, the cases get filthy inside and out. Just put them in the dishwasher with detergent and everything. They'll come out looking good as new. A lot of people work on their bikes upside down like this. But sometimes it's hard to get the shifters and things on the handlebars. Use 2 pieces of wood or bricks to give yourself another few inches of clearance. It's no work stand, but it gets the job done. It's amazing to me how many people don't know how to stand their bike up on a curb or log. Just kick the pedal backwards and the drivetrain will hold it in place. Put the pedal forwards and the bike won't stay up. Do you know how to true wheels but don't have a truing stand? Use zip ties as pins. Now you can watch any tutorial on truing and get your wheels straight as an arrow. I have an old video on this in the description. Have any of these little patch kit boxes? Well, they work great as first aid kits. I was able to fit bandages, ointment, butterfly closures, and even tape in one of these. I'm sure it could be mounted under a seat, and of course, you could throw it in your backpack. I know this sounds hard to believe, but I've seen several people get their stolen bikes back. Every time they needed to prove to law enforcement that they were the rightful owner. If you can correctly predict that this piece of paper will be in the seat post or handlebars, it's hard to dispute that you're the true owner. Have a tubeless tire that just won't seal up? Adding particulate to your sealant makes it plug bigger holes. We used glitter for this in another video. While this does clearly work, it also gets messy and makes your sealant clump more. Hydration packs slosh around when there's air inside the bladder, creating empty space. You can bleed the air out by turning the pack upside down and taking a drink. This is super easy to do and works like a charm. We all get muddy and sweaty when mountain biking, so you can make a seat cover out of an old towel. Just fold it over at the top and fasten the ends together with thread, staples, or whatever you want. The pocket at the top keeps the towel in place over your headrest, and it can still be used like a normal towel. If you use zip ties on your bike, this little piece here can be dangerous. So most people use end nippers or even a nail clipper to get them really short. I use a knife to get it totally flush with the fastener. Until you get good at it, working on a bike chain can be frustrating. Your derailleur can snap back and flick the chain into oblivion. For people like me with poor dexterity, a paper clip or hairpin can serve as a third set of hands. Hook this to your chain before you start working on it, and it'll behave a little more predictably. By the way, to set a master link back in place, just position it above the chainstay and crank forwards abruptly. Working on your bike can get messy, and we all know that dish soap doesn't quite do the trick. There will always be little spots that you just can't get clean. Use an abrasive like sea salt or even sand to scrub the dirt off your hands. A 2x4 is only a few bucks, and it's more than enough to make a bike stand. Just cut 2 pieces about 22 inches long, and use 2 12-inch pieces as crossbars. Fasten them together with screws and flip it over. This needs to be made to the width of your tire, but it'll usually work with slightly different sizes. You could build a rack with really long crossbars and multiple tire notches to keep your whole fleet parked. You can even paint it, and there's no precision carpentry required. There are various ways to get BMX grips off, but did you know that you could just use water? Just pour a little around the base of the grip and twist it until it comes loose. The grip should come off very easily, and the water should evaporate like it never happened. To get the grip back on, make sure it and the handlebars are really dry. Then put zip ties inside the grip and position them around the handlebar. The plastic will reduce the traction of the grip and make it much easier to get on the handlebar. Once your grip is installed, just pull the zip ties out one by one. I used hairspray to install grips when I was a kid, and I must admit, this is a lot cleaner. Adjusting a road bike saddle can be pretty involved if you're a serious rider, but a good starting point is to get it level. To do this, you can use a level. Set the bike on a flat surface and then put the level on the nose of the saddle and on one of the butt pads. Then adjust the tilt until it's level. From there, you have a starting point to get it just right. When locking up your bike, it's a good idea to secure your frame with a U-lock and your wheels with a cable. If you don't have enough cable, you can lock the rear wheel on the inside of the frame. This secures the frame and the rear wheel. It takes some time to wrap your head around, but stare at it for a little bit and think about it. You'd need to saw the rear wheel in half to steal the rest of the bike. Another great way to secure your wheels is with security skewers. These, unlike quick-release skewers, require a key to get off your bike. They're also lighter, better looking, and less bulky than quick-release skewers. With the key, they come off easy. Note that no security measure will truly keep your bike safe, but anything that makes it a bigger pain in the ass to steal will at least buy you some time. Your floor pump is arguably the most important tool you have, but after a while it may start squeaking and acting up. You may need to oil it, and it comes as no surprise that chain oil works great for this. Just apply some oil, clean off the excess, and usually it'll make the pump work good as new. Scuffs on your bike's paint can be pretty hard to clean off, but WD-40 surprisingly does the job well. Apply it to a rag or paper towel and work the scuff out until you can't see it. WD-40 won't damage your paint, and it's especially good for cleaning the scuffs that shoes leave on mountain bike seat stays. Let's be honest, we don't all have precision braking setups on our mountain bikes. If you're having trouble aligning your disc calipers, then you can use 2 business cards to get the spacing just right. Loosen the mounting bolts, put business cards between the pads and the rotor, and clamp it down hard with the brake lever. Then tighten the bolts while holding the lever. Release the lever and pull the business cards out. Now your brakes mean business. Get a huge nail, bolt, or even a tent stake and mount one of these GoPro bases to it. Heating up the tape a lot will make it stick better. Once it cools, you can use it as a handle or stick it in the ground to film yourself. Although it's clearly unsafe, it's more badass than a Gorilla Pod and easier to set up. I call it a Go Shank. While the Go Shank is great in a pinch, some jobs require a real tripod. Many hydration packs have these buckles at the top for the front pouch. Secure the upper part of a tripod leg behind this buckle and tuck the bottom of the leg behind a shoulder strap. It's amazing how well the tripod stays in place. I've seen more than one YouTuber use this trick. Old inner tubes are usually left in the trash, but actually you can make heavy-duty rubber bands out of them. These don't dry out as quickly as normal rubber bands, and they're great for securing inner tubes. It looks like if you double them up, they could also be used as volume reducers. After all, volume reducers just sit there and take up space. There's nothing worse than showing up to a race without the entry fee, which is usually cash only. Pull the end cap off your handlebar and hide a $20 bill inside. Put an inner tube rubber band around it so that it doesn't slide around, and you'll have emergency funds if you forget your wallet. This could get you out of a jam someday. As we saw in another video, you could also use that bit of currency to brace a sidewall tear. After experimenting with 5 different methods, we found that a rolled up dollar bill holds up with the best of them. This is because currency is made from a water-resistant, durable cloth rather than traditional paper. Just slip the bill between the tire and a tube, and carefully pump it up. This can get you back to the trailhead without walking. When I showed this cable fray trick in another video, some of you thought I was playing it in reverse, but it's true. You can unfray some cables by twisting them from the base and working your way back up. This works particularly well on cables that were recently frayed, and usually by clipping a little off the end and adding a new cap, you're back up and running without needing to swap the whole thing. Car interior cleaning wipes are a really convenient way to clean your bike. Although I wouldn't use them on moving parts and certainly not on disc brakes, they do work great on the rest of the bike. They're great for getting into tight spaces, and you can always leave a can of them in your car for ease of use. I've heard you shouldn't use these on tires, but I've been doing it with no adverse effects. Of course, I do take care not to get any on the tread. When you're climbing a fire road in the summertime, particularly in the Northeast, gnats seem to find their way to your face, eyes, and mouth. This is because they tend to fly to the highest point on your body. So while you're climbing that fire road, put your arm in the air for some temporary relief, and then sprint away to make your escape. If you want to accurately weigh your bike, these purpose-built scales are just awesome, but you can do it on the cheap with a fish scale. It's not pretty, and it's not easy to hook your bike to, but it's surprisingly accurate and gets the job done for $10. Fish scales sometimes have a measuring tape built in, which is a cool bonus. I see a lot of riders use trail mix as a snack. In fact, the sweet and salty mix seems to be ideal for some quick, filling energy. But trail mix is lame, so make your own. Homemade trail mix is anything but lame. Just pick out a few awesome ingredients, pour them into a container, and mix them up real good. I'm using cranberries, peanuts, and Reese's in mine. If you want to spice it up, you can snap into a Slim Jim.
Snap into a Slim Jim!
I guarantee you won't find this trail mix in stores. So there you go, 10 more sort of bike hacks. I'm starting a new list now and figure it should be done by the summer. If you have any bike hacks, let me know in the comments and maybe you'll see it in the next video. Until then, thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time. You can keep a master link in your backpack, but storing it on your bike means it'll always be at the ready. I stuffed 2 links into my bar end and left a piece of string dangling to pull them back out with. What other ways can you think of to secure spare links? Have you ever been stuck without a bottle opener? Platform pedals seem to have been designed for the job. Just hook the lip of the bottle cap under the cage and pry it off. I'm sure there's a spot you can do this even on clipless pedals. In the comments of the last video, someone said you can clean a chain by tying 2 toothbrushes together. Let's try it. I'm assuming that you fasten them at the base so they meet here and pedal the chain between them. Actually, not bad. Using a solvent would help too. If you do this, make sure you clearly label them so you don't mix up your toothbrushes. On some bikes, the cables rub against the frame and cause damage to the paint. After a while, it can wear right down to the metal. Velcro pads will not only stop this from happening, but eliminate the noise caused by the cables hitting the frame. If you don't want to stick Velcro to your frame, you can also just stick it to the cable. Velcro is available in different colors to match your bike. Keeping your rotors clean is essential for good braking power. In fact, the oil from your skin can make them practically useless. You can clean your rotors with alcohol and paper towels, but on the fly, these prep pads are really easy. This whole box was $1.50, and the pads can be kept in your travel toolbox, car, or backpack. It's even good to do this after taking your bike off the rack from all the grime from the road. Energy gels, or goo packs, are quite useful. They're basically disgusting, syrupy packages of pure calories that you can suck down while training or racing. In a pinch, you can use honey instead. It's 100% natural, available in packets, and not nearly as disgusting. In fact, it's awesome. In many cases, it's also much cheaper. If you have a pickup truck, you can carry a bike like this, but protecting your tailgate is essential. They sell really good products that do this, and they even hold the bikes in place, but there's a cheaper way. Just get a piece of cardboard and cut it to size. You can even customize it to look just like the real ones. Fold it at the top and lay it over your tailgate. Function, economy, and style. Even a nice clean hydration pack will have that rubbery taste and smell. You can freshen up your reservoir with a drop of citrus. Lemon or lime juice is sold in bottles, but you can also use the real thing. Now you can enjoy nice lime-infused water for your ride instead of rubber. Do avoid dropping whole fruits in there though, as Camelback Sangria will ruin your reservoir in a hurry. A drop won't hurt though. Even good hydration packs make your back sweaty, but you can take the edge off with some ice. Fill the pack partially with water and fill it with air. Lay it in the freezer and take extra care not to block the water outlet. Once it's frozen solid, you'll have a nice layer of ice right along the back of the reservoir. Top it off with water and it'll stay icy cold. This will melt way slower than ice cubes while still providing enough melt water to drink as you go. More than one commenter said that tying a zip tie or string around your hub can keep it clean, and I've seen this on cruisers and novelty bikes. Out of curiosity, let's see how well this works. Maybe it would work eventually? Yeah, a bigger piece of string, leather strap, or zip tie might work better, but let me show you a better way. Not enough riders carry first aid kits, myself included. To have one handy when you need it most, you can keep supplies in your seat post. First, we'll need to plug the bottom. I made a plug from a bar end by widening it with zip ties. You'll also need to make sure your plug doesn't stick out past the post. So if it's too wide, use a file or grinder to reduce the diameter. Put your supplies in a bag to lock out the moisture, store them in your seat post, and then hope really hard that you never need them.
That's the tree you're talking about, huh?
If you crash a lot like me, it's normal to knock a few things out of place. When a shifter or lever takes a direct impact, it's actually better for it to move than to stay in place and get damaged. So don't tighten it so much. Start with your lever totally loose and tighten it incrementally until it's firmly in place. No need to go further than that. Keeping it just tight enough will protect it in a crash. While you're at it, why not mark your shifters and brakes so you can always reinstall them at the same angle? On aluminum parts, you can safely make score marks with a knife. Just choose an inconspicuous spot and put a line on the bar and the clamp in the same spot. Next time, these are your guides. On carbon, or when you don't want to put score marks in your bike, you can use a different method. I made these little arrows with my label maker and then stuck them in place. We'll see if they stay put in the long run. Sometimes you need to clean or work on your bike without a back wheel, which means you can't pedal your drivetrain. Companies like Park Tool make dummy hubs for this exact purpose, but there's a hack to make your own. Just obtain a segment of garden hose. Your neighbor might have one. Cut the hose segment to size so it fits between your rear dropouts. Install your axle and route your chain around it just like a cassette. Now you can clean your bike and run your drivetrain without your wheel in the way. While your rear wheel is off, accidentally squeezing your hydraulic brake could compress your calipers and cause a headache. If you don't have one of these chocks, you can just fold up a piece of paper. Make sure you get it thick enough to really wedge in there. Secure it in place before working on or transporting your bike, and you won't need to worry about the levers. This simple solution can go a long way. Have you ever broken your derailleur on the trails, or snapped a hanger with no replacement? To get home, you can shorten your chain and go single speed. All you need is a multi-tool. Just find the gear with the straightest chain line and remove links to make it as tight as you can. It won't be perfect and you'll drop chains like crazy, but it's better than walking home and it's certainly worth a try. If that's not good enough, you can make a disposable chain guide to keep things in place. I experimented a lot to figure this one out, and yeah, it was interesting. But it turns out that all you need is about 5 or 6 zip ties. They're lightweight and great to keep on hand anyway. Find a spot in your chainstay that lines up with your chain and secure a lower pulley for the chain to slide over. Now loosely secure a zip tie around it and the chain. Now make an upper pulley thing and secure it to the seat stay. There you have it, an extremely ugly but functional emergency chain guide that will actually get you home. Does your hydration pack smell like bad? You can clean it out with baking soda.
Baking soda! I got baking soda!
I've got baking soda. Just put a few spoons of baking soda in your pack, fill it with water, and then whip it through the tube until it's empty. Rinse it out and leave the reservoir to dry. If you have this black mold in your bite valve though, nothing will get it out, trust me. Just clean your pack regularly or end up like me, buying a new bite valve. Most of us ride because it makes us happy, but some people take mountain biking way too seriously. Take a stand against seriousness with a flask cage. Origin 8 makes one and they even sell a flask for it. I fill mine with iced tea so it looks authentic. You can even get one for your kid. The next time someone's being too serious, just look them in the eye and take a nice long swig of iced tea. You can offer them some, or not. Sometimes you just can't ride, but you want to play on your bike. Lay on your back and you can have competitions with your friends in a garage or even a dorm room. You can probably play a full game of bike this way. It's almost as risky as riding a real bike. you might want to wear some protective gear for that one. Self-stick hook and loop is better. Not only is it reusable, but it comes in rolls and can be cut to size. If you really want to ride lean, just roll up your inner tube with a multi-tool, a CO2, and inflator. Now fasten it with hook and loop so that nothing can fall out. And finally, secure it to your frame under your seat. Self-stick can be found at most hardware or craft stores, in rolls or single pieces. Speaking of making repairs on the trail, have you ever been stuck without a valve core wrench? According to one of my subscribers, a lock-on grip collar can be used as an emergency substitute. Just remove your grip and pop one of the collars off. Then remove the pinch bolt and use the gap to wrench on your valve core. It's not the most convenient hack, but it's a hell of a lot better than getting stuck somewhere. Since most lock-on grips have a similar collar, this is a hack that a lot of people could use. If you wear your helmet enough, it'll get smelly from all of your disgusting head sweat. Luckily, most helmets have removable pads that you can clean or replace. Since washing machines have a tendency to eat things, take all of these various pads and place them inside a clean sock. Just machine wash it with detergent and throw it in the dryer like you normally would. Your pads will come out fresh, clean, and easy to find. Pool noodles have a lot of great uses, like bringing back 1980s BMX trends. But on the more practical end of things, you can use them to protect your bike during transport. If you're cramming a few bikes in your pickup, SUV, or wagon, pieces of noodle can protect the parts that are dangerously close to being smashed. Just use a scissor or blade to cut a noodle to size, and open it up down the middle. You can even keep some noodle in your travel bag for extra protection during shipping. Now that's using your noodle. Hydration packs allow you to drink water on the fly, but sometimes resecuring the hose is only marginally better than resecuring a water bottle. With a retractable badge holder, you can automate the whole process. Just clip the spool to your shoulder strap and fasten the cord to the end of your hydration hose. As long as the badge holder has a good spring in it, the mouthpiece should snap into place as soon as you let it go. You can also use a badge holder to prevent that spoke wrench from leaving the chewing stand. This hack was another request from a subscriber, and I think it's a really original one. What's the difference between these two pairs of cycling glasses? How about the fact that these aren't cycling glasses at all? In fact, I bought them at the hardware store for balls plus tax. Now paint me unsophisticated in the realm of cycling eyewear, but I just don't see where the $100 disparity comes in here. In fact, the hardware store glasses are lighter, more comfortable, and I think even better looking. Yeah, they're tinted, but you can also get these in clear. What's more, you can find gloves and even floor pumps for a fraction of the ones marketed towards cyclists. So if you're on a budget, the hardware store hack can save you hundreds of dollars, if you keep your expectations in check. Servicing your suspension is actually not that hard if you have the right tools, like bike-specific sockets. On standard sockets, the rounded ends tend to slip off the top caps on suspension forks. To make an existing socket work better, use a grinder to square off the edges. This shouldn't inhibit the socket's performance on other things, yet it will give you maximum grip on shallow top caps. Since you only need to do it on one socket, I'd say it's a pretty good hack. If you have a crap load of bikes, at least a few of them will need maintenance at any given time. Those of you with families can probably relate. So why not run your garage like a bike shop by writing out work orders? This is a fun way to keep track of what needs fixing, and you can even invoice your family members with chores to pay for your services. What happened to your trailer, Drama? While you're playing bike shop, try upselling them on unnecessary upgrades. Yeah, Drama, with the way you've been riding this thing, I'm gonna really recommend you go tubeless. Have you considered carbon rims? So, work orders, because they're way cooler than Post-it notes. The now 2-generation-old GoPro Hero 4 is still the camera of choice for mountain bike vloggers. Since you can't always find these anymore, you need to repair them to keep them running. Today, I'll show you how to replace the lens without taking the whole GoPro apart. As you can see, I've purchased a replacement lens for a few bucks online. It's screwed into this housing, which is the same as the one inside the GoPro. It screws in and out for focus, which means the one in the GoPro does too. To unscrew the GoPro lens, you'll need to pry off the rubber ring that covers the lens, and use some kind of plier. But as long as you're replacing the lens, marring it up should be no big deal. The new lens should screw in a lot easier and focus just like the old one. Performing a lens change using this rather unorthodox method is, in my opinion, a lot less invasive than doing it the quote right way. I've used the unscrewable lens hack 5 times with a 100% success rate. You can make a mud guard out of any piece of sheet plastic, like a 2-liter soda bottle, or this tracing paper I got from the craft store. Just print out the template in the description, trace it on your plastic, and cut it out carefully. Now personalize it however you like. Smash! With 4 zip ties, you can secure it to your fork and keep all that mud from caking up behind your stanchions. So much function, style, and sophistication, all in one hack. And finally, it wouldn't be a Seth's Bike Hacks video without a food hack. So here's a bonus hack for getting a bonus taco. The next time you eat tacos, place an empty tortilla on your plate. As you eat and inevitably get taco innards all over the place, your tortilla will accumulate the ingredients of your bonus taco, which is a combination of all the other tacos you just had. And that concludes this hacks video. It doesn't even get that cold in North Carolina, but it's cold enough to make this tire impossible to work with. When working on a cold tire, consider bringing it inside to let it warm up first. A warm tire is a lot easier to manipulate. Also, applying rubbing alcohol to the bead will help it slip back on. Afterwards, it evaporates like it was never there. If your local trails are loaded with creek crossings, you know all about wet shoes. To help dry them out in a hurry, place each shoe over a large hex wrench and use a drill to spin them at 3,500 RPMs. I'm mostly not serious about that. Actually, news or magazine paper is a smarter choice. Just be sure to use any publication except for Freehub. Just stuff the shoe full of paper all the way down to the toe, and it'll help draw the moisture out. This is a great use for junk mail, and it can still be recycled after the fact. If you work on your own bike, you know how nice it is to have proper cable cutters, as using other kinds of cutters can be less than ideal. But in a pinch, you can get by with some electrical tape. Wrap it really tightly around the brake or shift cable, and then make your cut. Although you may have the same struggles in making a clean cut, you'll at least be left without a frayed end. And I can only assume that if you're using this hack, you probably don't have any crimps for the end. So coat the end in a few layers of crazy glue to seal it off. If you do have caps, it's best to install them with a crimper to ensure they don't come loose. To make do without one, you can use needle nose pliers or diagonal cutters to crush them down in one spot. Just try not to squeeze so hard where you actually cut the cap. Biodegradable dog waste bags are a great addition to any pack. You can use them on your hands during a greasy or sealanty repair. Use them to pack out garbage, or for dog landmines. If dogs are allowed off-leash on your trails, you know how this stuff can seemingly live on your tire for miles. With a bag, you can get it all out from between your treads and go about your merry way. So poopy bags have many uses. A good bike light is not cheap, but a decent flashlight like this one is only $10. You can affix it to your helmet with mounting squares. Just clean the surface, apply some squares, and use zip ties to secure the flashlight in place. As long as your light is cylindrical in shape, this hack should be pretty effective. Although brightness varies greatly between consumer flashlights, they will generally give you more lumens per dollar than a bike light, but of course you do need to bring your own mounting hardware. A few years ago, I showed you how to make a simple bike stand with 2x4s. Today, we'll make something slightly more challenging with PVC. You'll need some PVC pipe and some plywood. First, measure from the ground up to your bike frame, and then subtract about an inch. Use some masking tape to cut a slot out of the PVC, about 3/4 of the way down. A Dremel or handsaw would probably be more effective than what I did. If you're trying to make this stand presentable, you can clean it up and paint it however you like. To assemble your stand, fasten the PVC to the wood. An end flange, if you can find one, will make this much easier, but toenailing these 1-inch drywall screws worked fine for me. The stand works by placing your left crank arm in the pipe, with your pedal spindle in the slot. It's quite secure and pretty slick looking. Although the PVC won't scratch your crank, it can end up with some paint scuffs. To remove your cassette, you need a cassette tool and a chain whip. Whips come in various form factors, but always hold the cassette in place while wrenching on the lock ring. But you can use an old chain and some vice grips. For extra points, you can clean the chain and reduce its length by about half, but neither of these steps are essential. All you need to do is wrap a length of chain around your cassette and secure it with the vice grips. Now you can hold your cassette in place while you loosen your lock ring. You can also use an actual vise or anything else with good clamping force. While this kind of clamping force is great for your homemade whip, it would absolutely ruin a cylindrical object like a shock. A strap wrench applies consistent force around an object to avoid crushing it. And indeed, it's pretty essential for working on suspension. But with a rag and a vise, you can get by. First, double up the rag to make extra sure your part is protected. Then wrap it around your part firmly and place it in the vise with the jaws wide open. Now be very careful to clamp only the rag, not the part. As you close the vise, pull the rag down to ensure the jaws can get purchase on the cloth. And you should end up with something like this. While this hack can get you out of a jam, it's not worth scratching expensive parts over a $10 tool. So only use this when you have no other option. This final hack comes courtesy of Eric Porter, and it has to do with travel. When you're packing up your bike and gear to take on an airplane, put your filthy, disgusting chamois right on top of everything. Any inspection that takes place will be short-lived. Of course, if you want to do just the opposite, put a dryer sheet in your bag to neutralize the smell of all your sweaty riding gear. Snapping your chain can be a huge bummer if you don't have what you need to fix it. But if you have a long downhill ahead, you don't need a chain. Of course, this means you'll be riding around with a circular saw blade with nothing covering it. As an extra measure of safety, you can wrap whatever chain you have left around your sprocket. This might seem unnecessary, but I've heard some sprocket-related horror stories. Just measure the chain and use your chain tool to push the pin only halfway out. From there, you can separate the chain by hand and snap it back together around the sprocket without the need for a quick link. Aside from being safer, this also looks kinda cool. Trail builders use a variety of tools to compact soil, particularly when working on jumps. If you need something with a little extra surface area, you can make your own compactor out of scrap plywood. Find or cut a piece of plywood in whatever size you desire, and drill a hole on either side. Take a piece of string and feed it into the holes, tying knots in the ends so it will stay in place. Operating this device is quite simple, and although it doesn't have the weight of a purpose-built compactor, it can get the job done with enough stomping power. Given enough haste and carelessness, one can mangle the head of their through axle to the point where it's stuck in the bike. Not that any of us would do that, but theoretically speaking, how would you get it out? I'll show you a few ways. First of all, grab a good hex wrench and try inserting it a little further, maybe even giving it a couple of taps. Sometimes this will give you enough grab to turn the axle. Still stuck? Move on to plan B. Find a Torx bit that's just a little bigger than the mangled hole you've created. Carefully tap it into the hole until it's hopelessly jammed in there. Now see if you can crack it loose. By the way, there's very little chance you're going to damage your Torx bit this way since it's made of steel and your through axle is made of soft aluminum. One more way to extract a mangled through axle is to make a through axle extractor. Find a hex wrench just a little bigger than the size your through axle used to be. Make sure it's a cheap hex wrench because we're going to destroy it. Use a file or grinder to taper the end so that it can be hammered into the through axle. It doesn't need to be perfect, as you can see, but it certainly helps. The next part is pretty self-explanatory. Hammering something into your bike might give you a queasy feeling, so hopefully this is the last time you need to do it. I think it goes without saying that from here, you'll need to replace your through axle. A similar problem is a rounded stem bolt. This can happen, but there's an easy way to get it unstuck. For starters, applying some penetrant doesn't hurt. First, remove the top cap. Next, obtain a high-quality hex wrench of the correct size. Use that hex wrench to tighten the other stem bolt as much as you safely can. This will make the stuck bolt easier to turn. So as long as it's not hopelessly rounded out, you might be able to jam a wrench in and unscrew it. If not, you can move on to the Torx trick from the previous hack, although it's possible you might mark up your tool since it's going to be steel on steel. It's still better than a lot of the other alternatives. I'm pretty good about keeping my valve stems tight, because in the past, I've had them unscrew or even break off into hand pumps. Not fun, and it turns out that very few people carry a valve core wrench. But a lot of people have action cameras, and this little mount does a great job of turning valve cores. Just wedge it on there, tighten it up, and consider double checking your valve cores in the future. If you lost that little rubber piece that holds your internally routed cable in place, it can rattle against your frame and be annoying. But never fear, electrical tape will provide an almost invisible solution. Just pull the cable out about an inch, and tightly wrap it with electrical tape until you reach the thickness of the hole. Then jam it back into the frame and enjoy a rattle-free bike. Simple and obvious, but very effective. If you're fortunate enough to have a wheel truing stand, you can add to it the ability to true rotors. All you'll need is a nut and bolt. This will work with any truing stand, and all you need to do is attach the nut to the arm. By adjusting that bolt inwards and outwards, you can get a reference point for where the rotor is bent. To reference the other side of the rotor, you can use the underside of the bolt head. This is a whole lot easier than trying to see which brake pad is rubbing with the wheel installed on your bike. And you can perform this hack with stuff you may already have lying around. At this point, we've probably done like a billion zip tie hacks. But never have we discussed cutting them without a knife or snipper. Indeed, you might end up in this situation on the trail. If so, take your multi-tool and wedge the zip tie in between two of the wrenches. Then rotate the multi-tool until the zip tie breaks off at the base. The best part about this trick is that it doesn't leave a sharp edge. You'll end up with a sort of rolled over end that won't end up slicing you open. This seems to work with most multi-tools, and it's a whole lot better than using your teeth. To perform some repairs like swapping a fork, you need to remove a brake caliper temporarily and keep track of all the bolts, washers, and other hardware that secure it in place. The easiest way to do this is with valve stem nuts. You know, valve stem nuts, those little rings that screw onto tubeless valve stems and inner tubes. These will very nicely screw onto the bolts that hold your brake caliper on. So you can use 2 of them to keep everything together while your caliper is just hanging there. Does that mean you can... No, not really. Even if this did work, I'd probably advise against it. This last tip is for trail snacks, which many of us carry in Ziploc bags, otherwise known as garbage. A great alternative is a reusable sandwich bag. These are tougher, nicer, and pretty much better in every way than disposable bags, and they help cut back on trash. But this tip is just an excuse for some trail food recipes. Mash up some avocado and mix it with lemon juice and a little salt. Throw it on some toast with sliced hard-boiled egg, and you've got yourself a hearty, nutrient-rich lunch. But that's not going to do it if you need quick energy. So the next time you go on a ride, pack a banana quesadilla. This, of course, consists of a tortilla, mashed up banana, and Reese's peanut butter cups. Pack this up in your reusable Ziploc bag, and you've officially upped your trail food game. I've heard it said that master links can be undone by hand, but I don't think this works on today's chains. I use a plier. In an emergency though, you can use part of your shoe. Just undo your shoelace, wrap it around the link once, and pull it with both hands. The link will compress inwards and release the clip. To get it back together, all you need to do is pedal. When transporting your bike without the wheels on, chocking your disc calipers will prevent them from being accidentally compressed. So, what do you use if you don't have a chock? First, get your hands on a popsicle stick. How you do that is your choice. The wider ones work the best, and you can cut it in half if you need to. Whatever you do, make sure you clean it off real good. The next time you hit the trails, have all your crap ready in a milk crate. Milk crates are great for your pads, gloves, tools, and filthy mountain bike stuff. You can use them to keep your trunk organized, and of course, they ventilate well. For extra storage, you can drill a hole in the top and add an S-hook for your helmet. I can think of some terrible ways to clean a mountain bike, like the automatic car wash at your local supermarket. This one sucks, and it costs $5. Instead, go to the dollar store and buy a toilet brush. Toilet brushes have long bristles which are perfect for getting into your cassette and other tight spaces. With some dish soap and a gentle stream of water, you'll have everything you need to get your rims, drivetrain, and frame looking perfect. Just be sure to label it to avoid cross-contamination. Everyone knows that stickers make your bike faster, kind of like nitro. But applying a sticker carelessly can cause bubbles. Bubbles aren't any fun. So the next time you put a sticker on your bike, helmet, or toolbox, try applying it from the center and working your way out. By doing it this way, there's no opportunity to trap air underneath. A flat and precise sticker will always give you maximum boost. Everyone's familiar with glueless patches, and of course, vulcanizing patch kits which use rubber cement. If you're really committed to not buying new tubes, you can make your own patch kit. Just buy a lifetime supply of rubber cement from the store, and cut patches out of an old inner tube. Identify the hole and sand the surface around it real good. Apply rubber cement to it and let it dry for a few minutes. Sand your patch and apply it by pressing down around it. Your friends will laugh at you, but that's okay because you're recycling. Of course, there's a good chance you're not even messing with inner tubes anymore. Tubeless sealant eliminates tubes and plugs most flats. When a puncture occurs, the sealant splashes into the hole and plugs it. On the sidewall, this doesn't always work reliably, but these handy repair kits do. Just stick one of these bacon strips into the hole and it's perfectly sealed. If you're committed to not buying one of these, you can use a piece of sponge. Just plug the hole with some sponge and a small Allen key. The sponge will absorb the sealant, dry, and stop the leak. It will stop the leak. Okay, so it'll stop the leak eventually. This is a hack, and it could get you out of a pickle if you don't have the kit. This rubber ring on your stanchion is used to determine sag, but sometimes it breaks off. Many riders use a zip tie in its place, and indeed that works. Still, if you leave the zip tie on and end up bottoming out your suspension, you could be forcing a brittle plastic zip tie into the top of your seal. If you remove the zip tie, you're making a risky cut right next to your stanchion. To avoid this, apply the zip tie inside out. You'll be able to set your sag and pull it right off when you're done. Ever take a sip of warm, rubbery water from your hydration pack? That's because you just drank the water that was sitting in the tube all day. Most people spit out their first sip, but this can waste a lot of water over the course of a ride. Instead, blow into the tube first. This will mix the tube water with the reservoir and give you a fresh sip. While water does keep you hydrated, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is the perfect fuel for long rides. It's the perfect mix of carbs, sugar, and protein, all in one delicious package. I'd forgive you for thinking there's no better mid-ride snack, but there actually is. Introducing the peanut butter and jelly burrito. Say goodbye to soggy bread. This is best done on a flour tortilla, not corn. You can even put a banana in it for potassium, and toast the edges to keep it shut. If you haven't tried this, you're missing out. Nobody likes riding with a jingling pile of scrap metal in their pocket, but on most new cars you can remove the transponder by flipping this little switch. So you can leave all this other crap at the trailhead. For any other key, you can buy a quick release like this one. Just pull the sleeve and bring only the key you need on your ride. In your shorts or jersey pocket, it's like it's not even there. A week ago, we looked at multi-tools that live on your bike, and in the comments, a guy named Kyle told me about this hack. Just stretch a piece of inner tube around the back of any bottle cage. Make sure to do it with the chalky side out for better grip. You can then very securely stretch it over a multi-tool. It's not the prettiest hack in the world, but it's a great way to offload some crap that would otherwise be in your pocket and eliminate the risk of forgetting a tool. Speaking of on-bike tool storage, products like this tubeless tackle kit from Genuine Innovations let you plug holes in your tire trailside with these bacon strips. Here's how to hide that patch kit in your handlebar. For this hack, we'll need to cut the applicator off and use epoxy to attach it to a bar end. I'm modifying one of these Ritchie Barkeeper tire levers for style points, but any bar end should do the trick. You can fill ones like these with epoxy, or drill a hole like I'm doing. Epoxy like JB Weld comes in two parts that cure when mixed together. It's super strong and should hold up to poking and prying. You can store the applicator in your handlebar with the bacon strips stuck to the end. Now for a couple of shop and garage hacks, starting with a cheap method for weighing bikes. I've mentioned before that a $10 fish scale works great for bikes, but adding a large rubber hook makes it even better. The simplest way to attach it is with a small hose clamp. These are easy to come by, but with a little creativity you can make it look more legit. Just hang it someplace high up, and you can always measure the impact that a new part or modification has on your bike's weight. For our next shop hack, I'll show you how to store tools that have belt clips on them. Instead of putting them in a bin or a drawer, just grab an old license plate and fasten it to the side of your workbench with the top protruding. If you need to, you can even add some space between the plate and the bench with 2 screws near the top. Anything with a clip will hook right on. It's cool looking, really functional, and spacious enough for plenty of tools. The next time you decide to retire a toothbrush, consider putting it to work in your shop. It's no wonder that a brush designed for teeth is perfect for just about any nook or cranny on a bicycle. For those rainy days where you decide to deep clean your rig, you'll have access to all the tight creases and dusty corners that got missed when you washed it. Oddly, I find cleaning my bike with a toothbrush to be relaxing, almost like meditation. After you're done meditating with a toothbrush, you can fill your hydration pack with the sacred waters of road runoff. While it looks like a beautiful stream, it's actually more like road water. But my hydration pack has a water filter in it. The sales dude at my local REI told me about this inline filter hack. Just buy one of these at a camping store, cut your hose, and install it with the water flow arrow towards your mouthpiece. Now everything you drink will pass through this filter. I guess you could theoretically recycle your urine through this indefinitely, but don't. A piece of old inner tube can be a great buffer between a nice bike part and a vise. But why not put an old grip to use? One of my patrons suggested this during a live stream, and I was struck by how obvious it was. If you cut the grip down the middle, it can be easily applied to any tubular bike part you want to clamp down, and it offers a lot more cushion than an inner tube. This is a tool you may use every day. If you ride rough trails with a water bottle, you may reach down to find it missing. So once again, our self-stick hook and loop comes to the rescue. Just make a T like this, and then wrap it around the indentation in the bottle. Now you can secure it to the cage so it won't fall out. While this isn't the best looking solution, it actually works, and it isn't so bad on dark colored bottles. And finally, a bike shop hack. There's no better way to boost morale among your mechanics than ordering them a pizza. So why not cut it in style? Just grab a cheap hub, fork, and rotor from the parts bin, and clean them up real good. Put a grip on the end of the fork and you have the most badass pizza cutter ever. Bust this thing out and you're sure to put a smile on everyone's face. And that's before they eat pizza. Bonus points if you install a stem and bars. Washing your bike is a key part of keeping it running smoothly, but using the wrong soap can dull the finish. I didn't even know this until recently. So use car wash soap. It's really easy to obtain and generally less expensive than the stuff marketed for bikes. With the right brushes, you don't need much soap to clean your bike anyway. A few months ago, I crashed into a tree in Arkansas and damaged the handlebars of my hardtail. Today, we're going to replace them, but first we need to cut the new ones to size. When cutting carbon, use a spray bottle filled with water to prevent dust from getting in the air. Carbon dust is really bad for your lungs, so this is actually a safety hack, a rarity. Thanks to Calvin and Truman from Park Tool for this one. What do you do with a broken carbon bar? Make a disc brake truing tool. Take a straight piece of carbon bar and cut a notch an inch down the center. Use your spray bottle and make sure to get rid of any sharp edges or splinters. You can add a bar end, grip, or tape handle to protect your hand from the end. If you have a slight bend in your disc brake, you can tweak it back into place without the risk of marring it up. Magnetic dishes are great shop tools, but so are these super strong neodymium magnets. Mount one on your repair stand or wherever you work on your bike. This way, you have a quick and easy bolt holder when you need it. When changing bars or doing anything stem related, I find this particularly useful. On the end of a shifter cable, you'll find this little nub, which keeps it retained inside the shifter. If you're in a dire situation where you need to make do without one, you can tie a knot at the end. You'll definitely need pliers to get it tight enough, and it may take some finagling, but it's better than nothing. If you don't have a new shifter cable, but somehow do have a soldering iron, you can fray the end slightly and add a nub just as good as the original. At home supply stores, you'll find these equipment ties, which are essentially rubber-coated bendy rods. These are great if you need to keep your bars from moving while performing a repair. For headsets and stem-related repairs, you can wrap it around your fork to keep it from dropping out of the bike. Since these ties are rubber-coated, they're probably good for any application where you need to hold the bike in position. Recently, I tried using electrical tape to neaten up my cables, and it actually didn't turn out too bad. But mountain bikers with true OCD use heat shrink tubing. You can get half-inch tubing online or even at Harbor Freight. I'm measuring it against my cables and cutting it to size first, then unhooking everything. I even needed to put a new end on my disc hose to get the connecting bolt through the tubing. Once you have everything in place, use a heat gun or hair dryer to evenly and slowly shrink the tubing. Take your time. It's not worth melting something. Once it's finished, you can stare at it for the rest of the day. You can do a lever bleed on Shimano disc brakes using only this little funnel. And actually, you can do the same with many other brands with varying degrees of effectiveness. But in a pinch, you can do it without the funnel. It just takes longer. You can keep an emergency supply of fluid in an eyedropper if you want to keep it on your person. And yes, this is the wrong fluid for Shimano. If that makes you cringe, you're really gonna hate this next one. Johnson's Baby Oil. I had no idea babies needed to be oiled, but this is available at any drugstore. The main ingredient is mineral oil, so in a pinch, you could use it to bleed mineral oil brakes. Maybe. I've read a lot of arguments about whether or not this is okay to use, and although I've found no record of it causing damage, there's a lot of skepticism. So I can't officially give it the thumbs up until I try myself. So for 1 year, we'll run it in the rear brake of my fat bike, and then take everything apart for a full autopsy. My guess is that it only voids your warranty and makes your brake smell like diaper. You should check out this video where the shreddist shows how to make a frame guard out of Kydex. Since seeing that video, I've been really interested in using this stuff, but my bikes already have factory down tube and chainstay protection. So we'll make a tail guard for my electric skateboard. Kydex can be cut and manipulated just like ABS plastic, and it's sold in various thicknesses. When you heat it up, it becomes malleable and conforms to whatever shape you want. Whoa, it wasn't supposed to come out that good. it seems to work. If you've ever carried your bike to your house or apartment like this, you know how difficult it can be to navigate tight spaces. So next time, do it like a pro mechanic. Turn your bike upright. This gives your bike a smaller footprint and reduces its turning radius, keeping your home free of disaster. If you need to get up a step, just nudge the seat with your knee. Zip ties are useful for all sorts of emergencies, so many of us keep them in our bags. But if you ride without a bag, zip ties can be stored in your hollow crankset. Just push them in so they fold over, and that should be enough to keep them in place. Although these can be tricky to get back out, it is better than them coming loose. Someday, you'll be happy you had zip ties on hand. These little crimps prevent your derailleur cable from fraying, so I always have a ton of them in my shop. But if you don't have access to crimps or a bike shop to buy some at, suitable replacements can be found at your local hardware store. There you'll find a huge variety of extremely ugly stand-ins, from hollow rivets to electrical connectors. These will all cost just a few cents and work more or less like the real thing. One of these might even be a great way to troll, if you're into that sort of thing. It's pretty easy to just lay your backpack on the table to load it up, and indeed, backpack loading is not a problem that needs to be solved. However, I really like hanging mine on my bench vise. This helps get the pack out of the way while I lay my supplies out on the bench, and the little nub on the crank makes for a perfect hook. Of course, if you don't have a bench vise, you can use an actual hook. This may even be a great place to store your pack while you aren't using it. In another video, I showed how an adjustable wrench with these markings can be used as a caliper to get rough measurements of things like seat posts, bolts, and other bike parts. But this is only good for measuring outside diameters. For inside diameters, you can attach some short pieces of zip tie to the jaws. This actually works. It's not pretty, and if you find yourself using this hack often, it's probably time to invest in some calipers, but it can get you by in a pinch. If you ever need to film yourself out on the trail, you can use a multi-tool as a phone stand. Just open the wrenches and wedge your phone between them to get the right angle. While this isn't ideal, it's better than trying to stand your phone up on a rock or something. You'd also be hard-pressed to find a multi-tool that this doesn't work with. The next hack isn't so much of a hack as it is a tip. Use waterproofing spray to protect your stuff. They sell products like this at outdoor stores, which can be used on all textiles, including bags, tents, shoes, or anything else made of fabric. You just spray it on your gear and give it about an hour or so to dry fully. At that point, water will just bead up and roll off. So if you get caught in the rain or splash through a creek, the water won't have a chance to actually soak into your gear and keep you wet all day. These products are available in varieties specific to gear or clothing, so make sure you get the right stuff. While the coating doesn't last forever, you can always reapply it. If you've never been brought to your knees by a Charlie horse, you haven't pedaled hard enough. But you know what can give you temporary relief from these dreaded leg cramps? Pickle juice. I'm usually quick to write off natural remedies as junk science, but this is actually a real thing. However, it's not the electrolytes in pickle juice that stop muscle spasms, like was once thought. It's actually the strong flavor of pickles, which overwhelm the sensory neurons in your mouth, throat, and stomach. It's like a kosher defibrillator for your leg. For a more portable cure, you can actually just use mustard packets, which have the same effect and are much easier to carry around. This adapter will allow you to use a Schrader pump, like you'll find at a gas station, with a Presta valve stem. But in a pinch, you can make one out of a valve cap. First, cut the top off the cap just above the grippy part, and then screw it onto your stem upside down. Make sure the valve is open and positioned a bit below the rim of the cap. Now a Schrader air pump should make a good enough seal to pump up your tire. This even works with those big crude gas station pumps. Of course, the cost of using one of those pumps can be more than a real Presta to Schrader adapter, so it might be a good idea to purchase one and keep it with you. Picks are extremely useful tools that everyone should have on hand, and if you want to get crafty, you can make one out of a bicycle spoke. First, grind the spoke to a point with a file or grinder. If you get the metal too hot, it'll become brittle and crack easily, so try to do this little by little and maybe even keep it cool with some water. I like to bend the tip to a 45-degree angle to make it more versatile. Also, put a hairpin bend in the other side to keep the pick from turning in the handle, which you can make out of a crappy piece of wood from your backyard. You can pretend to be one of those restoration YouTubers and get fancy, but at the end of the day, this is a pick made from a spoke. It'll only be good for light-duty tasks, but sometimes that's more than good enough. At least it'll look kind of cool, and you can say you made it yourself. Have you ever used duct tape to make a temporary repair? Eric Porter did when we were far from civilization, and I noticed that he had it wrapped around his pump. This is a great way to make sure you have tape with you. I prefer the 1-inch Gorilla Tape personally, but you could use any width or brand. Just carefully spool some duct tape around your pump, and be sure not to get any wrinkles in it. This way, if you're storing the tape outside, the sticky part doesn't get contaminated by dirt or water. You can forget it's there until you need it. For a quick and dirty bike wash, you can use a garden sprayer. I got this one for $10 and customized it with some of that duct tape. These sprayers are powered by air pressure and are far from powerful. But with the help of a brush, you don't need a fire hose to touch up your bike. This is a fairly popular trick, and for good reason. It's inexpensive, easy to carry, and effective. If you've ever gotten your shoelaces tangled up in your drivetrain, well, you're not alone.
Hold on, I got my shoelace tangled.
Double knots help, but why not give yourself an extra layer of security? Just pull on a lace further up the shoe, and pass the loops underneath it. This hack is tried and true, effective, and free. Now for some tire tips, starting with this little hook that you'll find on tire levers. No, these are not for hanging the levers on your tool wall, although you could. The hooks are actually designed to hold the lever in place on your spoke. When removing tight tires, many people will start with the first lever, hold it down, and then insert a second lever to pop off the bead. It's much easier this way with your hands free. I was very surprised to find out how many people didn't know this. Of course, with tubeless tires, you should try to avoid using levers altogether, as they can damage the rim tape and mar up the bead. Here's how to work your tires by hand. First of all, notice how tubeless ready rims have an indentation in the center, with flat areas on the side for the bead to sit on. The trick to getting the tire off by hand is to push both sides of the bead into the center. First, deflate the tire and pop the bead off by pulling it hard towards the center. Once you've done this all the way around, you can pull back the tire and grab it with both hands, pulling it over the side of the rim and pushing it down using your body weight. If you're having trouble, check the bead to ensure it's centered in that little valley in the rim. Once you get the first part of the bead over the rim, the hard part is over with. To mount a tire by hand, start by locating one side of the bead in the center of the rim. Work your way around the tire, constantly checking to ensure you're keeping everything in the center. I cannot stress how important this part is. You'll reach a point where it's a lot more difficult. Use both of your hands to gorilla the tire on, pulling towards you in a rolling motion. Start at the edges and work your way to the center. Once you've popped the bead over the rim, you can start working on the other side using the same process. Soapy water can help make this easier, but I'm demonstrating it with a totally dry setup. Now that we have our tubeless tire mounted, I'll give you one final tire hack. Setting the bead with a hand pump. This is going to be a bummer. Remember those flat parts in the edge of the rim? That's where the tire bead makes it seal. Normally, a blast of air from a compressor or floor pump will force the bead outwards, but you'll need to do this manually if you want to seal it with a hand pump. Grab a handful of tire and pull it up and onto the side of the rim. Do this on as much of the tire as possible on both sides. Keep attempting to pump up the tire until the air you're adding exceeds the air leaking out. If it doesn't seal, keep on working the bead. Give it hell with the hand pump, and don't stop until you hear that magical sound. This demonstration was done totally dry, but adding sealant beforehand can help quite a bit. Either way, it took me about 45 minutes, so it only makes sense in an emergency situation. That's enough tire stuff for now. Tailgate pads are a great way to carry bikes in your pickup. In fact, I've got an 8 on mine. But when you're only carrying 1 or 2 bikes, there's a better way. A mini tailgate pad made from high-density foam. This will cover less of your tailgate and retain the use of your backup camera, which gets covered by other pads. They sell this foam at home supply stores in the flooring department, and it's pretty durable. Just measure from the edge of your tailgate to your backup camera, cut the foam to size, and make adjustments as needed. This does a great job of protecting your tailgate, and rolls up to the size of a yoga mat for storage. If you carry your bikes using a hitch rack, you may notice that it wobbles from side to side. This is because receivers are designed for strength, not precision, but you can reduce the slop with shims made from aluminum cans. Just cut some pieces out with a shop scissor, and lay them inside the receiver with lips on the edges for retention. You can experiment by folding them over for a tighter fit. If you have access to sheet metal, you can definitely make something nicer than this, but in a pinch, it's a pretty effective hack. With action cameras coming in more shapes and sizes than ever, we're placing some huge demands on these little mounts. Especially when leverage is involved, tightening the plastic screw just doesn't cut it. The answer? Carbon paste. Carbon paste is simply an abrasive compound that increases grip, and you might already have some laying around. Apply some carbon paste to the joint on your action camera mount, and install it as usual. The little grains in the paste will bite into the plastic, and reduce the chances of it moving. Since carbon paste isn't permanent, you can unscrew your camera mount and use it again like normal. Filthy, smelly trail dogs belong in the back seat, but sometimes they don't want to be there. So today we'll make a pup jail out of cargo net, a bungee cord, and some plastic clamps. Just cut the cargo net to size and fold it over the bungee, using zip ties to secure it in place. Now you can hook the bungee to the rails on your headrests and clamp the cargo net to your seat back pockets. Alright, buddy, 5 minutes. With enough determination, Drama could probably power through this thing. But I left him alone with it for long enough to satisfy my curiosity. He didn't bother. This is going to be great when he's messy or drooling, but I'll probably still let him ride shotgun most of the time. Adjusting the air pressure in your suspension fork is supposed to be an easy part of routine bike maintenance, but it isn't always. Air caps have a way of being ridiculously stubborn. It's tempting to break out heavy artillery in these situations, but the solution is right under your nose: your shock pump. This can actually be used as a slide hammer to knock the air cap loose. Just brace the handle of the pump on the cap, and then use the body of the pump to initiate a precise impact. This won't scratch your air cap, and it makes use of a tool you already have handy. It also works with most suspension forks. Of course, the next time you screw on your air cap, be sure not to make it so tight. Even the best knee pads have a way of sliding around, especially if you're doing a lot of pedaling. If you wear a chamois, you can stretch it over the tops of your pads to hold them in place. I realize that this doesn't work for all pads and that some of you are so tall that your chamois doesn't actually reach your pads. But for us short people, this does an incredible job. I use the Kind chamois and they reach all my pads. Another hidden benefit of this hack is warmth in the winter months, as it makes for continuous coverage down your leg. As far as bike racks go, it doesn't get much simpler than the tailgate of a pickup. And today's tailgate pads even include straps to secure your bike. Still, they can bounce around on rough roads. So if you're on a long trip or doing any kind of overlanding, you can use a ratchet strap to hold several bikes in place at once. Just use the tie downs in your bed to hook the strap over the bikes, and then crank it down just enough to hold the bikes in place. If you want even more security, you can wrap the strap around each bike, which will keep them from moving side to side. This trick also makes theft more difficult during quick stops like intersections. These next two hacks come courtesy of Eric Porter, although these are both old tricks. First, a way to secure the rear brake hose on your dirt jump or BMX bike. Because these bikes are made for tricks like bar spins, the hose is often left really long so we can wrap around the steer tube. That leaves a lot of extra hose that can slap around and make noise. Some people put a zip tie here, but it's only a matter of time before it slides down. For a permanent fix, put a zip tie around the hose loosely, and then pass another zip tie through it and around your steerer tube. This solution is bar spin friendly and costs only pennies, so in my opinion, it's about as good as hacks get. Even mountain bikers who ride tubeless still usually carry a tube for emergencies. And if you want that tube to work for as many bikes as possible, use a 29. You can actually shorten a 29-inch tube down to just about any size. Just push down on the tube with your thumb and pull it back so it folds over itself. You can then keep pulling it down to achieve the size you're going for. It's a good idea to do this opposite the valve stem to counterbalance the weight. But in reality, you won't counterbalance anything. This hack is strictly to get you home without having to walk your bike. Here's another inner tube hack. Schrader valves are found on BMX bikes, dirt jumpers, and unicycles, while Presta valves are found pretty much everywhere else. Install a Presta tube in a Schrader wheel, and it sits off center, flops around, and allows for dirt ingress. But you can solve all these issues with a Presta valve cap. Just cut it in half, and then screw it onto the stem upside down about a quarter of the way up. When you install the tube, it should make for a perfect fit. Although this looked pretty official and will get you by, it's still a hack. If you run high pressure, this could in theory stress the base of the valve stem and damage the tube. That said, I did this for a bit at 60 psi with no problems. Small multi-tools like this one are convenient, but they lack leverage. If you've ever tried to break a pedal loose with one of these, you know it's nearly impossible. Assuming your bike has through axles, you can use one to add leverage to the tool. First, remove your through axle and then slide it over an unused hex wrench opposite the one in your pedal. It should now look like this. In this configuration, you can apply pressure to both the multi-tool and the axle, giving you the leverage to crack loose just about anything. That worked like a freaking charm! On hex through axles, you can use the hex head, and on quick release through axles, you can use the hollow end. Some may worry about damaging their axle doing this, but I tried several with no issues or even so much as a mark. But I don't know how tight your pedals are or how strong your axle is. So if you have any concerns about this hack, don't use it. Now for some trail building hacks, starting with one we've already used on Berm Peak. Removing small stumps with a reciprocating saw. For this, you want to use a pruning blade, and just cut around the stump in a circle. For a little shrub, this can get the stump out of the ground in under a minute. Having done this countless times now, I can confirm that it does no harm to the saw itself, but it will put a little bit of a hurting on your blade. For slightly bigger stumps, this trick still does work, but definitely takes an extra minute or two. When building dirt jumps, you ideally want soil without any sticks, pebbles, or roots in it. To get perfect dirt, you can use a leaf rake as a sifter. Just rake some of the soil into a pile, scoop it up with the leaf rake, and then shift it around until you're left with just sticks and pebbles in the rake. This takes some time, but if all you need is a top layer on a little jump like this one, it works great and leaves you with perfect chocolatey soil that compacts like it's supposed to. With a little practice, you can do the same thing just by raking, but this is more thorough and kind of satisfying to watch. You're all alone in the woods, the only human being for miles, or so you think. Pull off trail to take a whiz, and it's a scientific fact that you'll get run up on immediately. It's just the way the universe works. So use this to your advantage. The next time you need some local knowledge, just summon a local. Oh, hey, do you know this trail really well? So most bikes have a bunch of black parts on them, and here these cranks you can see are a little worn away there. Now if you want to get your bike in super showroom condition, you can take a black Sharpie and just touch it up. Welcome back to Berm Peak. I'm Seth, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, but kind of the same. I'm sure many of you know about the Sharpie hack, and I'm sure you also know that you could use actual touch-up paint if you want to do it right, but that's what makes this a hack. You're using something that's not necessarily designed for the job, but it also works, and that's what hacks are about. And we're gonna be going over 10 of them today related to mountain biking. Let's get on to the second one. So this right here is a Fox 36, a really legit mountain bike fork, and it looks it. There's just something about it that looks serious. Well, maybe you have a cheap fork like this Suntour fork that comes on a lot of entry-level bikes. I'm gonna show you how to make it look more legit. So first things first, you wanna take all the stickers off of it. That part might take a little bit of time. So you're gonna need this tool. I left a link to it in the description, just a few bucks, so you can remove the caps on the top of your fork. Then flip it upside down and the springs are gonna come out. They're gonna be real dirty. If you clean these up and re-grease them, it'll actually make the fork run a little bit better. Yeah, this fork's seen hell. You're gonna then loosen these two bolts on the bottom of the fork. And then at a certain point, you're gonna need a 300-foot socket extension with a 5mm hex on the end. So we're just gonna pull the lowers right off. And now we can take our little red O-ring and put it up on there just like a high-end fork. So while we have this apart, I'm gonna clean it all up. I'm gonna put new grease in the fork and put it back together so that it runs like new. Now it looks legit, exactly like a RockShox fork or a Fox fork. Maybe not exactly, but pretty damn close, and this is functional. You can push it down at the beginning of your ride and see where it is afterwards, see whether you need to increase your preload or reduce it. Pretty fun little hack, does require a few tools, but you'll be the only one on the trail with an O-ring on your Suntour fork. So you got a vinyl bicycle seat with all sorts of crazy colors, or maybe it's old and tired and you want to freshen it up. You can actually paint it. What if I were to tell you that this seat wasn't always black? They actually sell vinyl paint. You can get it at any hardware store. Probably use normal spray paint. Basically, all you have to do is sand the seat down very, very lightly all over, make sure it's really, really clean, there's no oils or anything on it, and then put very, very light coats of paint on it until it's whatever color you want it to be. And the best part is it comes out so good, it looks like it was born that way.
Damn, that looks good.
And yeah, you can sit on it. The seat can flex, you can abuse it, and it will stay painted. You can inspect this really, really close. There's not a flaw in it. We were really surprised to find that out when we researched it, that painting a vinyl bike seat, actually no big deal. So on most mountain bikes or gravel bikes, you're gonna find a whole bunch of little bolts, like the ones that hold on your bottle cages, the ones that are made to hold luggage racks, and then also bolts like the ones that hold on your disc rotors. Well, it turns out that all these bolts are the same size and thread. And the reason this is important is that disc rotor bolts are available in all sorts of different anodized colors. They're lower profile, they look way better than water bottle cage bolts. And if you like customizing your bike, this is a really cheap and easy way to do it because there's lots of blank areas like those luggage rack bolts that you can change to whatever color you want and give the bike a little pop. Another appearance mod, but hey, you might not have known that disc rotor bolts are the same thread as water bottle cages and luggage rack bolts. So if you've seen our flip bike series, we fix up a lot of bikes and we also restore individual bike parts. Sometimes it involves cleaning them so we can paint them or just make them look better. And so I want to show you a hack today, how to make a sandblaster out of an air compressor and one of these little compressed air attachments. So to do this, you're gonna need your air sprayer, you're gonna need a water bottle, and of course, you're gonna need some sand. You're also gonna need some tools to modify your air sprayer. First thing we're gonna do is drill a hole in the base of the bottle so that this makes an airtight seal through it. Cool, that's what we were going for. Next, we have to modify the tip of this. And we want to open a little channel right in this part of the sprayer. And I'm gonna just do it with an angle grinder. I think I'm gonna turn this into like a hopper. So we've got our water bottle, we've got our sprayer. Now we're gonna test it. Okay, so now you can see that the sprayer is in here and the little opening that we made is right at the bottom so that the sand is going to fall into it. Get a healthy amount of sand in there. Probably dry off the inside of your bottle better than I did. Let's see how it works. Oh yeah. Yeah, that sprays some.
Dude, there's stuff going everywhere.
Yeah, maybe I'll just go out here. Okay, so here's the dirty part. I'm gonna spray right here and see if we can clean it up. Are you as amazed as I am? Dude, I mean, that is insane. I wonder if it can take the paint off of something. Dude, immediately. So yeah, the problem is, A, I think I made the hole too big, and B, that you can't take the top off of this. You have to leave the top on. And then C, you want better sand. That's not gonna jam the thing up. Okay, I'm gonna do a couple little adjustments here to our design just to make the prototype work better, and we'll try her again. I would say the design doesn't call for hot glue, but you gotta do what you gotta do, you know? Gotta get your due. Sometimes it takes hot glue. This is gonna work amazing. All right, so that's the current state of our derailleur. We're gonna try and blow the rest of the paint off of this with our revised sandblaster. It freaking worked! Look at this! Proof of concept, works. It's a hack. So we're all mountain bikers, right? And mountain bikers wear clothes when they're riding mountain bikes, and those clothes get stains. Depending on the trail, the stains might be in your underwear, but other times they're actually blood stains on your clothes. Now, I have a real blood stain here. I harvested it from a bug bite, and I'm gonna show you how to get it out. Usually, a blood stain is considered a death sentence for a garment, but hydrogen peroxide works as well on clothes as it does in one of your wounds. So we're gonna pour a little bit on here, and you can see that foaming action on the blood, just like when you're cleaning out a cut or a scrape. And the sooner you can get to it, the better the chance you're gonna be able to get the blood stain out completely. I think we're gonna get this 100% out. And yeah, this is one of those hacks that 100% of the time a mountain biker is gonna run into needing to do it. And as you can see, we've got pretty much the whole blood stain out. Yeah, it's like it just eats blood. And that's it. So this is not dry. We've got almost the entire stain out. Had we caught it a little bit earlier, I think it would have come out completely. But yeah, you be the judge. Is there a better way to get blood out? I think this is pretty much it. And as a mountain biker, at some point, you're gonna stain up some of your clothes with blood. So eye protection's really important when you're riding downhill because a bug or a branch or anything could go into your eye. But when you're climbing, a lot more comfortable to ride without eye protection. And one of my subscribers sent in a hack for a glasses holder right on your handlebar. I'm gonna show you how to do it. So you're just gonna need 2 zip ties. I'm using 2 different colors. Make a little loop like that. Then attach that to your handlebars. Then go ahead, cut off the excess. And now when you're climbing, or you just don't need your glasses, you can stick them in here and they're not gonna go anywhere. I mean, that doesn't look like it's gonna come loose. So thanks Marcel from Switzerland for sending that one in. I think it's a pretty good hack and I might actually use it. So part of having a good ride is staying hydrated, but not only do you have to stay hydrated, but also your trail pup. Oscar, come here. You want a drink of water, buddy? Now, when your dog needs a drink of water, you either try and pour it into their mouth. Some people try and like pour it into the cap and have their dog drink out of it, which is kind of nasty to be honest. But one of our subscribers on Instagram actually filmed this hack. You pull a rock out of the ground, and then where the rock was, there's a little indentation. You fill it up with water, and then your pup can drink out of it. Way better if you can find like a round rock that leaves a nice bowl in the ground, but here on Berm Peak, all we got is shale. But Oscar, you're hydrated, right? So part of setting up your mountain bike properly is setting the air pressure in your suspension, and to do that you need to determine your sag. You push this little ring down, you put all your weight down on the bike, and you very carefully climb off, and then you check where the ring is so you know where the suspension is sitting when you're just riding in a straight line. Now the problem is when you're getting off the bike, you tend to move the suspension around and you don't get as accurate of a reading. Especially if you're at a trailhead or something, it's a difficult process. You usually need help from a friend to hold up the bike. There's a little hack I learned from my friend Clint. Go up on the bike, cycle the suspension a few times, put your ring down, and then before you get off the bike, turn your compression all the way up. This way the suspension moves less as you're climbing off, and now you can get a much more accurate sag reading. Anyway, really simple trick. I always use it, learned it from Clint Gibbs, and thanks for that one. We build a lot of outdoor mountain bike features out of wood like this one, and depending on what type of wood you build it out of, it's eventually gonna get moist, grow algae, moss, those types of things. And not only can that make the wood rot away, but it can also make the feature slippery. And so thanks to a tip from one of our subscribers, we can now treat it and delay that process just a little bit more. So what we have here is a garden sprayer filled with water and then some outdoor bleach. So what you're gonna wanna do is mix it up in the garden sprayer, hit the feature once or twice a year, and it's gonna kill all that moss and algae and all the stuff that's making it slippery and making your feature not last as long. But since we've done this, we noticed a big difference in just how the planks look, and we're excited to get a little bit more life out of our features and for them to be a little bit grippier because there's less organic matter on them. Now, should you have any environmental concerns about spraying a little bit of bleach on your feature, well, you could just let it rot away and then go out and chop down a tree, build a new one. So if you watch my repair videos, you know I'm a stickler for these cable crimps. You put them on the end of your cables to make sure they don't get frayed, poke you, and for like $3 you can get a lifetime supply of them. But there are people way more serious than I am about frayed cables. I had a subscriber suggest welding them, so let's try it. It works amazing, like perfectly. Look, this is not gonna be something that I do on a regular basis, but if you have a welder sitting next to your bike stand, the hat's off to Overkill. So you're overhauling the linkage on a full suspension mountain bike, and unless you have hundreds of dollars worth of bearing presses and extractors, you're likely reaching for your hammer and your screwdriver. I've got a gentler way to do it. For this one, you're gonna need a clamp and some sockets. So when there's a cartridge bearing on both sides like this, it's tricky to get the first one out even if you have a proper extractor. Get a socket that fits inside of the bearing, kind of offset it a little bit. Then you're gonna take another socket whose opening is larger than the bearing. You should be able to just squeeze it with your C-clamp. A few turns of that clamp, and you can see our bearing is coming out. Now to reinstall the bearing is even easier. You just need to find a socket that's the same diameter as the bearing, and it's gotta be the same diameter as the bearing because it might actually sit below the frame, and so you have to push on the edges of the bearing here. Now this is a hack, there's more than one way you can screw it up, but with a little common sense, this can get you out of a tight spot. This is a crank puller, and unless your bicycle's crankset has a built-in puller, which some of them do, you're gonna need this to take it off. There's no other way you're gonna get it off besides a crank puller. And you'll notice on some crank pullers, you can pop this little guy off and put on a bigger one, because not all splines are the same, some of them are hollow. And some pullers don't appear to come with that piece, although I could have lost it. As it turns out, this little adapter is the same size as a dime, and so you can insert a dime and pull the crank right off. And so it is true that it'll cost you 10 cents each time you remove a crank arm, but it'll take a while to add up to the cost of a crank puller with this little thing on the end. Good old saddle pouches, you don't see these around very much anymore, but people still use them, they still sell them, and it's a great way to carry stuff. Main problem with saddle pouches is that they make a lot of noise and it can get annoying, and so I'm gonna show you how to put a sock in it. Not loud anymore. Now for style points, you could actually take all the stuff out of here, put it in the sock, and if you have car keys or a little snack or something you want to keep isolated from your greasy tools, well now they're isolated, and everything is going to run real quiet once you put a sock in it and hit the trails. So you're watching your GoPro footage, everything looks great until you hit a puddle. One subscriber told me that you can put Rain-X on the lens and it will shed water easier. Let's try it. Okay, we have two identical GoPros here. Both lens covers have been cleaned with alcohol, but this one, we're gonna put Rain-X on. All right, we'll just mark this GoPro. That's the one with the Rain-X. If you're riding, you're shaking around and there's wind going against you. So let's see what happens if we kind of tap them. Let's see what happens if we blow on them. I think the one that was really clean without Rain-X on it actually performed better. So if you want your GoPro to shed water, just clean it with alcohol. This Park Tool wheel holder, I use it just about every single day, and I honestly thought it was kind of silly when I first saw it. But having a way to hold your wheel safely while you're installing a rotor or mounting a tire is really convenient. And as you might imagine, there are several ways you can rig one of these up yourself. So first of all, quick and dirty, if you got an old through axle you don't care about, there's more than one way you can clamp this in the vise to hold the wheel. As long as you're not doing anything crazy, this will hold it in place for you. But even an old through axle is worth something, and so this is $4 at the hardware store, and you can bend it into whatever shape you want and clamp it into your vise to work on wheels. So I put a hose clamp on mine to keep the wheel from crashing into the vise, and I also ground one side flat so that it wouldn't rotate. Works kinda just as good as the real thing. So if you've ever commuted by bicycle in a city, You know that you can leave work and find that your saddle is missing, or your entire bike is gone, or one of the wheels is gone. It's just inevitable and there's no way to stop it from happening. But don't make a thief's job easy, throw them for a loop. Make sure they need as many tools as possible to take apart your bike. Use the most obscure fasteners you can possibly find. Security Torx, anyone? A flathead M6? Or how about a T20 just to drive them nuts? A Phillips head M5 somewhere you would never expect it. So you can take out all your stem bolts, go on the internet or go to the hardware store, get some weird ones. And so if your bike is a bigger pain to steal than the one next to it, they'll likely go for the low-hanging fruit. This is a multi-tool, a Crank Brothers M20, and it comes with a little plug applicator for tubeless tire repair. Also has this little box piggybacked onto it that there are tubeless plugs and quick links inside of. Now, if you just need the tubeless repair, you actually don't need this little box. You can just take the tool and stick the plugs right in here. It's not going anywhere, and this is not the only tool you can do it with. A lot of tools come with plug applicators and no plugs. And even if the tool doesn't come with a plug applicator, you can get by with a little Allen key. And so you can take a little tool like this one and add tubeless tire repair to it just by folding some plugs into it, and it'll get you by. And so if you're a weight weenie or you're just that concerned with saving some space on your bike, this is a hack that could work for you. So you're out mountain biking and you mangle your chain and you don't have a spare quick link to make a proper repair, but you do have a multi-tool. You can sort of fix it to get back to the trailhead. First, make sure one side of the chain looks like this, an inner link. Then you're gonna go to the other side of the chain and remove all of the janky stuff. So now both sides of the chain should be inner links. This is usually what you've got when you're making your normal repair with your quick link, but you don't have one. And so you're gonna go 1/2 link down to the outer one, and you're gonna push the pin not quite all the way out. You're gonna push it maybe 3/4 of the way. So now the pin should be sticking out here, but the chain should be together. If you kind of twist and bend it a little bit, you should be able to get it to pop apart, and you can see that this pin is still sticking through just a little bit. So now you're gonna put the chain back on the bike. Normally you would use a quick link to join both ends, but now you're going to pop them together just like that, and then use the chain tool to push this pin back through. Now, this is when the repair can go one of two ways. I'd recommend you don't do much gear shifting, just get the bike how you want it for the rest of the ride and baby it, and it could rescue you and make it so you don't have to push for 10 miles. Sometimes the link will be a little tight, sometimes you can loosen it up a little bit. Better than you not being able to pedal your bike. So fair warning, this next one is really, really stupid. In another video, I showed you my trampoline bike, which is basically a BMX with towels and stuff wrapped around it so it doesn't puncture your trampoline. You jump up and down and you can practice tricks on it. Really fun, really stupid. Most fun things are. But if you don't want to sacrifice an old bike to the cause, you can use your kid's balance bike. It's actually perfect for it. It's small, it doesn't get in the way, great for bar spins, and by definition, they've already removed all the sharp stuff from it, and so you don't have to tape towels to it or anything, just use it as is. Will it make you a better rider, help you learn tricks? Absolutely not, but it's fun. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed binge watching all those bike hacks. I hope you didn't do it on a nice day when you could have been out riding. But in any case, I hope you learned something. If you didn't, I hope you at least found it entertaining. Thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time.